In the darkest corners of the universe, where the light stops to a crawl and where sound cannot escape, where time stops working entirely and eventually things in existence stop making sense. Chaos is an inevitable force on our world and our lives, so we've made great efforts to contain it within this space for only an hour a week. This is the Chaos Continuum.
So Nexus Knight's official Overwatch 5v5 coming to a theater near you soon.
Yeah. And if we can't do that, we can do 3v3s. We could do. I really wish you could do other game modes with just 3 people, but you can't. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah. Well.
But yeah.
Beyond that,
we're talking about
welcome back to the Chaos Continuum podcast. With me, Buster McTunder, and my co-host, Ben, your least favorite white dad. I'm realizing this is like 25 episodes in, and probably the first time we've actually introduced ourselves. But
maybe ever since like the 4th episode.
Yeah.
We kind of just jumped straight into them.
Yeah.
In case you've forgotten who we are.
Today we've got some more structure going on, if you cannot tell by the title and everything here going on. Basically, we're doing like a jumping into Warhammer type thing, because I really like Warhammer. I've been into it for a while. And I'm semi-interested in it. You're interested. You know fuck all, though. If you come to watch this as somebody else who is also new, there's a lot of people who have guides on Warhammer, like getting into Warhammer or learning about Warhammer, but a lot of that is coming from people that have already been in the hobby for like decades, or already know quite a lot about it.
Yeah.
I know a lot, like I know enough to pass. Ben knows fuck all. So I think it'll be interesting to go through kind of the introductory steps of Warhammer with somebody who knows fucking nothing.
I know. All I know is that there's a God Emperor, there's big funny Space Marines, the Salamanders are like the few good guys, and the Orcs have magical powers that involve colors and thinking whatever they want to think is real.
Basically, yeah. That's all correct, yeah. But yeah, so we're going to do... I have a list of all of the major factions. It's kind of loosely, because like in every faction that Warhammer has, like every major army, there's like 50 sub-factions of that. So like Space Marines, you have 20 different flavors of Space Marine, and then like any number of successors beyond that, right? You have like the military, and then you have like a bunch of different flavors of military, or you have orcs, and you have so many different flavors of orcs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So essentially, the way we're going to be running this is if we were, say, theoretically, we're not actually going to be, because Warhammer is fucking expensive, and Ben is broke. But we're going to be going through this as if hypothetically we were starting Ben was starting a Warhammer army. So we're kind of going to go through every single of the main armies and explain them and see which one you kind of like the most.
Yeah, I think I kind of know. I have an idea, of the few that I know.
This is, for people on video, this is a army list, or like a detachment list for Ben as well. This is my Salamander army that I'm working on. And it's 3,000 points, which is big. So, like, as far as the game goes, Ben, like, each unit is a certain number of points, right? And it all adds up. Most units are like around, or like a whole squad is like around 100 points on average. Some of the bigger stuff, like a tank or like the big knight I have, can get up to like 200, 400. And then 2,000 is like your regular big game of 40k, points-wise.
Yeah.
So I have 3,000 points, and that's definitely not where you start. That is me spending far too much money on Space Marines, which half of them aren't even built. I just have it written down in my list.
Also, side note, because I'm sure not everybody is going to, watch this fully the way through. Yeah.
Are you in your car?
No, it's a car park set. I'm outside right now. That if you're interested in watching Buster McTunder here build and paint them. You can go check out his Twitch chat at Buster McTunder. What is it? Buster McTunder?
Twitch.tv/Buster McTunder. I'm currently building and painting the Leviathan box set, which I just recently got. That's where the last, third of my Space Marines are coming from. But yeah, we're doing that. I'm also very sick today, if you can't tell by my voice and or coughing. Or my coffee in a Tostitos queso nut salsa jar.
So, but yeah, and sometimes I pop into the Twitch chats. You get the Ben cams. I'll sit there and I'll chat for a little bit. If you're curious. I think it's more of our kind of like, we get a little bit more serious in those ones, I think, so far. Yeah.
The Warhammer streams are very, like, low. There's not a whole lot going on, because painting and putting together Warhammer models, as much as I very much enjoy it, it can be a tedious and sometimes kind of not necessarily boring, but it's not very fun to watch. You know what I mean? Like for me, the person doing it, I have loads of normally I'll just throw on a podcast or like put on music or something and just sit there for hours and hours going at it. But for somebody watching like on Twitch, outside of being in the chat and communicating with like me while I'm doing it with it or whatever, when Ben comes on and we're just talking about whatever and he's making mac and cheese in the background, like it's kind of what mostly it devolves into, because there's only so much you can do with like cutting little pieces of plastic on the desk for 2 hours. But
and there's only so much like actual physical entertainment there.
You have something?
No, I was just reading a message. Okay. But no, I'd be awesome if anybody listening to this comes down, watches it for a bit. Yeah. Like I said, I think, and like I was saying before, and I think that's kind of where it's like, you gave an economics lesson the one time.
Well, it wasn't an economics lesson. Spyro, one of our chatters, was asking me about like how expensive Warhammer can be, and I was kind of explaining that like it could be really, really expensive, or it can be not so expensive. It kind of depends how you get into it, right? Yeah. But like I definitely went the expensive route, but it's possible to get into it like under $100.
Well, it's like any hobby, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like look at like an Xbox. Like you might think like a game is like $60, but to buy the Xbox in the first place, you spend fucking $300-400, right? That's how I look at it, at least. Except for, unlike skins in Overwatch, I will have these little miniature army men on my shelf for the rest of my life.
And but think about it. When I kill somebody with my cool skin, Yeah. But let's focus back in on the topic.
Let's start into it for realsies. So a little bit of background. The reason it's called Warhammer 40K, 40,000, is because it's set 40,000 years in the future, in the 41st millennium, where there is darkness and bleakness, and there is nothing but war, or there is only war. It's in the genre is called grimdark, which is basically everything is grim, everything is dark, everything sucks, there's little to no hope whatsoever, and that's kind of like... partially the appeals of Warhammer is the fact that it's just so fucking bleak, and there are no good guys. Like you talked about earlier, like salamanders being the only kind of good guys. It kind of depends what you define as good guys, because like they're definitely good from the way that they treat like regular ordinary people as a Space Marine, which is not something, we'll get into it later when we start talking about Space Marines, but it's not something that Space Marines normally do. But they still use like white phosphorus and napalm to burn away anything that isn't human immediately.
Yeah,
which is okay.
But I think it's all like I think a lot of that is all comparative to what's already in that universe. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
You compare good and evil.
Yeah, you compare some like flamethrower loving, tree huggers to like literal insects that eat worlds, right? There's a lot going on, but basically, so you have about 30,000 years into the future. You have this dude, Big E, the Emperor of Mankind. He's this super fucking powerful space wizard in this super awesome suit of armor. And he basically goes through, and I think it's called the Unification Wars. He literally goes through all of humankind that is like spread out across the galaxy and literally beats them into submission and is like, you are going to be a part of my, my empire. From there, he makes 20 sons, the Primarchs, as well as some other stuff like the Adeptus Custodes and Grey Knights, which we'll get into. But basically, he makes these 20 sons to help him rule, and each of these sons have a different special thing going on. Like, they have their own unique trait that makes them special. After all his sons are, like, kind of going around, and they're united with their Space Marines, and the Space Marines are kind of like an even further diluted version of the Primarchs. So that the Primarchs are a little bit of the Emperor, the Space Marines are a little bit of the Primarchs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, if a Primarch has a very specific thing going on, all of the Space Marines to that Primarch have that same thing going on. Say, like, you take Robot Ghillie-Suit Man, who is the Primarch of the Ultramarines, which are the basic... Let me pull them up here. They're the basic boys in blue, the Boy Scout Space Marines, the blue ones that you see fucking everywhere. Robotu Ghillie-Man is their Primarch, and he's really good at taxes. And that's the simplest way to put it. He's really good at, like, logistics and, like, building supply lines and organizing. So, like, all of his Space Marines, because they're kind of based on him, they take his little gene seed, and they're based on that. All of his Space Marines are fucking fantastic at filling out forms. They're fantastic at sticking to schedules. They're fantastic at all of the things that he would be generally instilling upon them, right? Versus you have, like, Space Wolves, who are kind of like Space Vikings, and because their Primarch does nothing but drink and party, all of those Space Marines do nothing but drink and party, you know?
Yep.
So then you have Big E, Emperor, and all of his Primarchs and Space Marines. Literally half, technically, number 2 and 11, there's 20 legions of Space Marines. Legion number 2 and Legion number 11 don't exist. Just ignore them. You're never going to find out answers about what they were or what they are. But the other 18 legions get split basically down the half during the Horus Heresy, where one of the Emperor's sons, Horus, basically turns to Chaos, which is... I love Warhammer because it's so dense, because as soon as you introduce a new vocab word, like 70 other words come with it. So basically Chaos is like hell, like demons, all that sort of thing. They come from the warp, which is this kind of like layered lasagna sub-dimension, kind of like the Nether in Minecraft, right? Where like you can go to this other dimension that has a lot more magic, but with that magic also comes literal fucking demons that like get into your brain and shit, right? So you get Horus, who is one of the Emperor's sons. He starts the Horus Heresy, where he wages war against the Imperium, and he's basically being empowered by these big chaos gods to take the fight against the Emperor. In their fight, the Emperor kills Horus, but also is like mortally wounded himself, and he gets put on the Golden Throne on Terra, on Earth, where he kind of just sits, and he's like a rotting skeleton that is like falling apart year by year by year, but he's just kept on life support, because he also, the Emperor has such a, basically, the way magic works in 40k is that your brain is connected to the warp all the time. And the more magically inclined you are, the stronger of a beacon you are in the warp, meaning that, like, the more demons are drawn to you, right? Because they'll, like, pick up on it and they'll, like, focus down on it. The Emperor is such a powerful psyker that in the warp, he's like a lighthouse. He's just fucking glowing. And basically, that works twofold, because A, big fucking dude, but it's also, the warp is how Space Marines and the rest of the Imperium travel through space. Like how we talked about how it's like the Nether. If you go through the warp, it's a lot faster than going through regular space. You know how like the Nether is like every 8 blocks is like one regular block?
Yeah. So
basically you have this lighthouse, so when Space Marines travel through the warp, they're able to use that anchoring point to navigate around in it.
Yeah.
And then Emperor's dead on his throne. Most of the Primarchs are dead and gone. The traitor heretical Primarchs are like transformed into these demonic demons, essentially. And then the regular Space Marines are all kind of on their own without their Primarchs. Only 2 of the Primarchs have returned, which is the Lion and Robot Ghillie-Suit Man, who I was talking about. And they're kind of the only things holding the Imperium of Man, the basically all-encompassing faction that is mankind in the 41st millennium.
Yeah.
questions to the floor. Yeah, how much does that make sense?
That makes sense. So the big god emperor guy, he's like a lighthouse when they're traveling through the warp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know? I mean, that makes sense. No, I get it. Yeah. It's kind of like basic shit, I guess. To me, you know what I mean?
It's simple from there. And I mean, humanity is still strong. Like, one of the big things you'll see come up is that humanity is constantly fighting everything. Like, you have all of these different factions, and they do fight in between themselves a lot, but humanity is fighting every single one of them all the time because they're just the biggest, right? So they're constantly being attacked on all sides, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so that's that, and then now we can move into the specific things, starting with, of course, the Boy Scouts, the guys who pay all the bills, the Space Marines, which there's a fucking lot of, and they're popular, obviously. I'm collecting my main army is Space Marines, specifically Salamanders. Like I said, there's 8 Loyalist chapters of Space Marine, and there's 8 Traitor chapters of Space Marine, and the 8 Loyalist ones are... I was going to list them off, but I'm realizing I don't know them off the top of my head. You have Dark Angels, who are Knights of the Round Table-esque. They're the only other ones that have had their Primarch come back. That's the Lion, and they're like the Space Marines. If you ever see them, they'll be wearing hoods, and they have like kind of knight-looking masks, and they like swords and stuff. You have Space Wolves, who are the, aforementioned, the Viking ones. They're using axes. There's some of them that are mutated that kind of makes them almost like werewolves, where they're like more animalistic and they're using literal like claws and shit. You have Ultramarines, which are the big blue ones. They're the most populous of the Space Marines. Like, there's a lot of them because Rabuti is so good at organization and shit that basically his Marines have succeeded the best because they're the most well organized, right? You have Salamanders, who are like really good blacksmiths and stuff, and they're just really kind because it's like a thing. It is something that was this is one that I like about the Salamanders the most, is that like Salamanders, whenever they get into a fight that involves regular people, like regular people on the sidelines, they will take a 90% casualty loss, because the way Space Marines work from the get-go, I should have explained this, they're 8 foot tall, massive super soldiers donned in, $1 billion suit of armor, right? Like, literally they're given armor and guns that the Imperium almost doesn't know how to make anymore. So it's all very, like, humanity has almost cult-like obsession with technology because they are kind of in the dark ages of their technology now. They don't know how to make as much of the really advanced stuff as they used to. So they kind of just have all this old shit that is like 10,000 years old and just praying that it never falls apart. Like, literally praying and shit. And the Space Marines are like the ultimate. Like, they're super soldiers, but they're also kind of like warrior monks, where they're often very like, what do you call it? Very like regimented and things like that. But basically, what that leads to is a lot of the times with Space Marines, they'll see like a regular dude, where humans in the 31st millennium are so plentiful that they have thousands of these hive worlds, and each hive world is home to like hundreds of billions of regular people. So they have way more people than they do technology. So therefore, regular people, throw them at the problem until the problem goes away, is their main strategy for dealing with threats. So that's why, like, Space Marines, a Space Marine will look at a regular dude dying in the street and be like, let me step on your face to make it go way faster. Or let me just, like, not even, I'm not going to give a shit because I'm worth way more than you.
Yeah.
Salamanders do the opposite of this, where they believe that, like, to protect the Imperium is to protect its people. So they'll, like, see, like, a single farmer standing in a field about to get hit by, like, a big-ass demon, and they'll jump in front of the demon and get killed trying to save the farmer,
So do you think... I mean, I know you're going to go through them all, and maybe I should wait to go through them all, but do you think they follow what the God Emperor would want the most? Yeah? Because isn't it like the whole, like... He had, like, maybe I'm fucking retarded. I mean, maybe I'm really fucking stupid. But, like, I thought that, like, the God Emperor was, like, had, like, these beliefs, and these beliefs were, like, twisted. You know, now that you know what I mean.
Well,
right?
so he also kind of has, what do you call it? There's this joke that will come up a lot of like how everyone prays to the God Emperor and they call him the God Emperor. I'm sorry, I'm getting plugged up all of a sudden. And like he didn't want to be known as a god or whatever, but it's also like the man walks around in a 10-foot suit of gleaming gold power armor with flaming wings, a flaming sword, and a literal burning halo. And it's like, don't call me God, but it's the strongest person to ever exist and who has ever existed in the last 10,000 years.
I'm going to do everything that God would do.
Yeah.
I'm going to personify God. Yeah.
And then he's, martyred and shit like that. But it's kind of like that. And like his main thing was like just kind of unifying humanity and like taking over the galaxy. So it's not that they're necessarily doing anything wrong by that.
Yeah.
But that's where the kind of hypocrisy comes in with the God Emperor, where he's like, don't pray to me like a god, but I'm going to walk around with a flaming halo and be the strongest guy to ever live.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah.
Keep going about the salamanders or whatever.
That was basically it. Like the salamanders take that they lose so many of their own troops because they just sacrifice themselves for literally nobodies. And there's a part of that I really like, and a lot of people really like. Salamanders is probably one of the favorite Space Marine chapters, just because they're kind of like the antithesis to what Space Marines are supposed to be,
Yeah.
And I think it was at the point they're described as like, so Space Marines kind of existed before their Primarchs came around. Some of them did, at least, because there were Space Marines out in the wild, like they were part of the Emperor's army or whatever, and then his Primarchs he just sent out into the galaxy to like get raised on their own, and then he would like come along and find them and add them to his empire, essentially. So what the salamanders were before their Primarch came around, Vulcan, who is this big blacksmith, and he kind of gives the salamanders their blacksmithing type of attributes. The salamanders before their Primarch were already like suicidal at the behest of regular people, but almost like too much, because so like if their fatality rate before their Primarch was 90%, their fatality rate after their Primarch is like 85%, right? Where basically they would literally like throw, like they would be begging to throw themselves on a grenade, right? Versus like their Primarch came around and said, hey, if that grenade isn't going to kill anybody, don't throw yourself on top of it. Like save your life for like when it actually means the most, right? But still, they still, sacrifice themselves regularly. And that's basically the salamanders. Big fire guns, stuff like that.
Yeah.
After that, you have like the Blood Angels, who are all red, and like the name probably implies, they are vampires, and they sometimes sprout angelic wings out on the battlefield.
Okay. That's their whole thing.
They're vampires. That's it. They had this thing called the red, I think it was the red thirst, and then it becomes the black thirst or the black hunger or something like that, where basically their Primarch died during the fight between Horus and the Emperor. So they have this weird like generational trauma where everything going wrong, or when they have like this black anger, I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's like the black thirst or something like that.
Something.
Yeah. Where they attribute all of their problems and all their enemies to Horus. Even though Horus is dead, like a Blood Angel will be like, wake up in the morning and stub his toe, and he'll look down at the table and he'll be like, Horus put this table here, and smash the table, Or they'll be out the battlefield and they'll be getting shot at, and they'll be like, Horus, I'll kill you, and they'll start, like that scene in the new Suicide Squad movie where the dude Polka Dot Man sees like the entire Suicide Squad as his mom. They do that, but for Horus. So they'll just be like on the battlefield seeing people, and they'll just see Horus's face in all of the people, and they'll just start blasting.
Okay.
And they're really bad about that.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Next after that, we have Iron Hands, who are a lot of the names are pretty self-explanatory. Iron Hands, because they replace their hands and other parts with iron. They believe that like machine is better than flesh, so they remove their own flesh in exchange for cybernetic implants and things like that to make them tougher. And they're very much like, you know, big machinery based, vehicle based, heavy weapons based Space Marines. I don't know as much about them. Some of these Marines are not nearly as popular for obvious reasons, but they're still around, so I guess they count. We have the Imperial Fists, who are also some of the bigger ones. They are the all yellow Space Marines that you'll see, and they are the defense guys. They're the defense guys, and they're the can't take a joke guys. Not can't take a joke. They just don't know what a joke means. You know, like they're the MCU version of Drax, right? Where like they have no concept of humor whatsoever. Like, you try to tell them a joke and they'll take it completely seriously. But they're also really good. Like, if you tell them to make that dirt mound impregnable, they will make it the strongest dirt mound to exist in the galaxy. Right? Like, that's their whole thing. Is like they're the defense guys. Yeah. Like, they often have, like, you know, big, heavy tanks and walkers, and, like, their Space Marines already covered in, like, this super tough steel armor will also be wearing shields. Just because.
Okay. Cool.
And then... Oh, yeah. Last, we have the Raven Guard, who are very much, like, kind of stealthy sniper-type Space Marines, which kind of sounds wrong for dudes in 8-foot-tall power armor, but it's kind of like their whole thing. Is that they...
There's something funny going on in my brain as I'm just thinking of these big fucking Space Marines trying to like sneakily like steal sneak around and like doing like, you know, like combat rolls.
It's
like combat roll around the corner.
It's like in Fallout 4 when you use a stealth boy in a power armor, but the power armor is still making like the full hydraulic stomps. So it's like you're completely invisible, but it's going like you know?
You know when you heavy roll in like Elden Ring or like Dark Souls?
Yeah.
That's what I actually go for the roll.
Like the encumbered roll.
Bang! Yeah. Like, you didn't hear us.
Yeah, pretty much. They're just... I mean, they're big on, like, snipers and stuff, too, so they'll, like, be set up way out in the middle of nowhere, waiting just for the perfect time to just fucking fire, and that's it. And then...
But those things can't... Like, those suits can't be very mobile, can they? Because I imagine, like, once they're down, it takes them a good, like, 2 minutes to get up.
So, an important thing about Space Marines is they give regular people a thing that Warhammer calls transhuman dread, which is basically... It's like the RoboCop principle, right? Where you see something that used to be human. Like, Space Marines start out as regular humans, just regular-ass people.
Yeah.
They're kind of like Spartans from Halo, where as children, they're given all of these extra implants and organs and all these different enzymes and genetic mutations, and throughout their training evolve into these big behemoths of people, right?
Yeah.
So most regular people, when they see a Space Marine, they get kind of unnerved because it's unnatural. On top of the fact that Space Marines are really rare, because Space Marines, although they're the ones you see the most, as far as like regular people in the universe, they almost nobody, at least, what do you call it, percentage-wise, is going to actually see a Space Marine in their day-to-day life, ever. In fact,
I'd imagine they're like a bad omen to see them. Like maybe except for the salamanders.
That's exactly. Outside of the salamanders, because the salamanders are very often involved with their local people, and they're allowed to see their lives, which almost every other Space Marine is not allowed to. Space Marines are often a worse sign than not, because if a Space Marine arrives, that means no matter how many regular-ass people you throw at the problem, it's not going to be enough. Meaning now you need Space Marines.
It's death. Like we're all going to die.
Imagine you're a regular foot soldier on the ground, and you see somebody roll up with a nuclear bomb, and you're like, "Oh, really? That's where we're at now?" Because that's kind of where it is.
It's over.
Yeah. Imagine you're fighting
Space Marines. Kind of.
Imagine
I haven't played a lot of Gears.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I'd imagine the Space Marines for some reason apply the same Gears logic. We're like, let's just nuke our people. You know what I mean?
Well, that is a big thing.
Let's just fucking blast them. You know what I mean?
Will
right?
often,
like,
and when we talk about the Inquisition and the Grey Knights, that will come up for sure, because that is a thing that happens.
Aren't like, isn't there like a faction of like Space Marines that if you see them, they just kill you anyways?
That's the Grey Knights, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes other Space Marines will too, but the Grey Knights for sure, yeah. But yeah, Space Marines are a bad omen. I mean, it's like being a stormtrooper and then you just see the Death Star like in low orbit, you know? Like it's it's not great to see. You're like, I'm stationed here for another 6 months. What is that doing in the sky? You know?
There's no bad guys on this planet, please.
Yeah. Where the fuck is that terrorist at? Next, after the Raven Guard, we have the White Scars, who are very much like, they're kind of like Mongolian based, where their whole thing is speed. Like they're literally speed addicts, and they get thrills from like killing dudes. So you'll see them on like with jetpacks or like motorbikes, just fucking flying through the battlefield with like a chainsaw sword hanging off the side of the motorcycle to like fucking mailbox some people's heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then with them, God, this is getting worse as we go. But with all of that, that is all of our loyalist Space Marines.
So I'd like to point out a fact here. Yeah, because I got a bit of a gripe with the Warhammer community. Yeah. This sounds like a lot of work when you could just look at a big white moon and go, bless me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this, you know what I mean? Sounds like a lot of like, ooh, we gotta get enhanced as babies. I don't know, just die and be cool and get resurrected. You know? 1.2 million is a big number, motherfucker. Sorry, my bad. Got a bit of a gripe.
Yeah. Oh man, we'll have to revisit that Reddit thread one day and see how well it's done.
Fucking hate that. Yeah. I have such a problem with that fucking thread. But continue. So do the groups of Space Marines ever like work together?
Yes, if the problem is bad enough.
Or they like solo?
Like they often are on their own. They're separated just because each of them patrols kind of like a different area of space. You know what I mean? But if they happen to be in the same area, or if an issue is bad enough, then multiple of them get called together. Then yeah, you can have multiple different types of Space Marines working together.
But and
even Space Marines working with like regular people.
But I'm assuming like they don't work like some of them don't work well together. Yeah,
they definitely don't. You know, like there's definitely people like the Iron Hands who are very like, if you talk about Space Marines not caring about regular people, Iron Hands are the worst at that, right? Because they don't even like flesh. They don't like their own Space Marine flesh, let alone like the flesh of just like, you know, pointless regular people. If you put them next to salamanders, they'll work together. Yeah, but it's not going to be a good time, you know.
Yeah.
It's like if you put two really like politically charged people working together on the closing shift, you know, like a fight is probably going to break out, but they're not going to like outright deny, because they can't, because they, as much as they are opinionated in some respects, they are very, 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 very much, what do you call it? Disciplined, right? Like loyal, where like they will not really phase off from the, whatever you call it, the mission whatsoever. And if they do, most often, rather than not, they'll just be executed for it. That's heresy. You're not doing what you were told to do.
What happens if they fight each other? Like, there's no battle, they just run into each other, some shit. They're like, do they ever like fight each other?
Not that I know of. They're all kind of like on the same team. They'd probably just like look over at the other spaceship and be like, "Fuck you guys," and then like shoot off into hyperspeed.
So, but like hypothetically, if like, who do you think would come out on top? Yeah.
Of what? Of all of the different Space Marine legions?
All of them. All of the different Space Marine. Yeah.
Probably Ultramar. Who do you
think's coming out on top? Which ones are those?
That's the blue, the Ultramarines, like the classic Boy Scout ones.
Classic ones. Why is that, do you think?
So they're the
they're
the biggest Space Marine faction because there's just the most of them. Plus, they have Games Workshop. They're obviously Games Workshop's favorite because they're everything. Like they're in everything. Plus, they have the most named characters, so they have plot armor, which helps a lot in Warhammer.
I guess I'm removing the plot armor and that stuff.
It's still probably the Ultramarines.
You know,
like as much as the other. So like Ultramarines, as much as like logistics and stuff is also one of their strengths. They're good at everything and bad at nothing. So like other chapters might be better than them at some things. Like the Salamanders might be better at like forging stuff, or the Imperial Fists might be better at defending. They're not even a jack of all trades. They're like a master of all trades. Like, you know, like they are good. Like they are great at everything they set out to do. They might not be the best, but they're pretty fucking damn good.
But they also have more numbers, and we both know that high numbers are important when it comes to a battle, right? Yeah.
I can tell you're still salty about your your Guardians thing and your Destiny thing. Refer to the last podcast episode where we talked about
because they would fucking win. Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm on your side. Yeah, it's Reddit you have to convince.
No,
not
I know.
Me.
That's why I'm bitching it.
The biggest issue with stuff like that is that like I saw a few people in that Reddit thread talk about. For context, I put up a Reddit thread asking who would win between the 1.2 million Guardians of Destiny and the Space Marines, and a point that it's really hard to take any fight against Space Marines seriously. Like if you put Space Marines up against Spartans or up against Gears of War or anything else, the whole point of Warhammer is kind of the fact that it's so over the top that there is no true winning, right? Like there's no war in Warhammer that's ever won. It's always kind of like a stalemate, or they fight until one person fucks off, right? And that's kind of just how it goes. Destiny.
Yeah. I don't think you really ever win fucking nothing, because they always come back. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not...
Right? I don't know. I guess maybe not the war thing, but I look at that, a lot of that stuff is very also kind of over the top. You know what I mean?
You could argue about it. You could argue about this for hours. Yeah.
I don't think we could. No, there's no argument because I'm right. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because all I'm saying is that every single one of those 1.2 million people are the equivalent of like gods. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Like in my mind, they're like immortal. They've got the power of like.
What if they're like a new light and they don't know how to aim?
They still have the power of the fucking like light of the universe.
What if they didn't pay for the DLC though? What if they only have like standard void?
That's fine. They don't need strand or fucking stasis. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's meta.
The darkness. Yeah. Which is a whole other category. I don't think there's anything meta. I don't think there's a meta when you put something up to the Space Marine. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's just like shoot more, hit more. Yeah. They can also res each other. I just realized that too. Right? Yeah?
Yeah.
You know?
So,
like it's...
Putting us back on track, our next Imperium faction is the Astra Militarum, which is your regular rank-and-file human soldier. These are your overwhelming majority of the soldiers who fight for the Imperium.
Yeah.
They're regular people. They are... You know, most soldiers, they learn how to shoot a gun at 5, they learn how to take it apart at 6, and they're in their first battle by 12, right? Like, they are...
So, are they forced to do it like the Space Marines?
Pretty much, yeah.
Are they like bred for it, kind of?
Kind of. Well, there's just so many people, and there's so much fighting going on. I mean, there's some of them that take great pride in it. Like, up until the planet broke, the biggest export of guards was Cadia, which was this planet, which obviously... would race people. Like that's where that phrase comes from. Shoot a gun at 5, take it apart at 6, fight by 12. So like Cadians are like the most popular of the regular Militarum soldiers, and they're kind of like it's almost like a great honor to them because as much people like it's kind of a numbers thing. Like if a planet has 300 billion people on it and 100 billion of those become soldiers, you still have 200 billion people that stay behind to like work in a tank factory or work in a guns factory or work in a food factory, you know?
But so there's people that work in those factories. Are they also like bred to do that shit? Yeah.
Not necessarily that they're bred to do it. It's just that they're so overpopulated that they just like kind of get forced into stuff.
Forced into it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many of these regular soldiers do you think it would take to kill one Space Marine?
So
They have, I guess they have all, like, if they have, like, tanks and stuff, I don't know, like, what kind of weaponry they have.
So the way the Astra Militarum works is by sheer overwhelming fire. So, like, that's why on the tabletop
this is why this is throwing bodies and
yeah, that's why, like, the disposable human, you know, like that phrase from World War II about Russia where it was like they had 5 guys, 1 gun, they'd give them a gun, they say go off and win, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of how the Astra Militarum is, except for they also have guns. Another way to explain it is like their main weapon, the las gun. It's this laser rifle, no recoil, doesn't jam, blasts holes through concrete, totally accurate. Is fucking strong as hell, super cheap to manufacture and everything like that. Oftentimes, it's referred to as a flashlight.
I'm assuming that's comparative to
like the guns that like Space Marines use and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But how many do you think? Like it's like 1 Space Marine. Yeah. Right. Like it's just 1. Yeah.
So
and it can be you can pick
if the soldiers get lucky and they have tanks and artillery on their side, maybe like 200.
And do you think that's like a difficult fought victory, or that's
a hard fought victory?
Yeah. How many without tanks and artillery?
I don't know if there's a number. It would have to be a damn lot. You know, like that's where like that earlier phrase comes from, where if Space Marines comes in, that means no number of regular people could take this fight.
Yeah.
So think about it that way, like no number of regular people could take out like a Space Marine. They have another one that is like send a single Space Marine to take a city, send a squad of Space Marines to take a country, send a whole legion of Space Marines to take a culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's little to no comparison. I mean, on the tabletop, it's obviously different and stuff like that because you have a lot of stuff with dice and kind of game balancing. But in the world, I'm not like Space Marines will plow through dozens. Like they plow through dozens of aliens and demons, which are stronger than the regular soldiers. You know, so like assuming you put them against regular soldiers, they would just chew right through them.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the Astra Militarum. There's a few different flavors of them. Like there's the guys from Catachan, which is like this horrible jungle planet that is so inhospitable that they almost enjoy going to different planets to fight because it's like a vacation away from their home.
Yeah.
And there's a few different versions of them, but they're not all super interesting. A lot of people obviously love Astra Militarum because they're kind of just regular people. They're really expensive on the tabletop because basically the more models a faction has, the more expensive it gets, right? Astra Militarum is lots and lots and lots of rank and file infantry and lots of big tanks, which is expensive miniature-wise. And also, they're bitches to paint, because I'll get for you right here on the camera for you guys. Obviously, I have an example of the soldiers here on screen, but also, this is a regular Space Marine. Look how small that motherfucker is. Now take my Astra Militarum captain, who is half the size of that. Now, take, if you have Space Marines on the board, you probably have 20 of these guys on the board. If you have Astra Militarum, you have 100 of these guys on the board, and you have to paint all of them. Well, if that's what you want to do, which is normally the goal, right? So yeah, they're a bitch to paint, and there's a fucking lot of them, which makes them expensive. But they're kind of, there's not a whole lot to them other than that. They win by sundering gunfire and pure numbers.
Okay. And what do you think like the casualty rate is? Percentage wise. Are we sitting at like a high 90? When you're sent into battle, like
if you go into battle, they go into battle not expecting to come back. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
Okay. Here. I'll look it up, Jamie. I'll see if it's out there. Okay, so they're the very, 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 So the way they put it is the average life expectancy rate for a regular soldier on the battlefield is 15 hours.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
I can imagine now. Start your watches, boys. Let's see who survives longer.
Yeah. I got a bet on 16. I think I'll make it.
How long you think you're going to make it? I'm giving myself 17.
Blasted right then and there.
Yeah, it gets a boom.
It just gets fucking Carmine right away. Yeah, that's exactly how it would go, too.
Oh, a Space Marine just comes out and steps on him.
Yeah, they get run over by a tank. They hop out of their own tank and step on a landmine, which is pretty much how it goes. That's exactly how it happens, you know?
God.
Next, after, we're basically going from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high right now. So, after that, we're going to move into the Adeptus Custodes, who are, if Astra Militarum, you have to buy a fuckload of models, Custodes is the complete fucking opposite. Like, you need 20 of these dudes to be a 2,000 point army.
Yeah.
For comparison, my Space Marines that I said was like 3,000 points, that is like 60-something Space Marines plus a Knight plus a tank plus 2 Dreadnoughts plus like some other heroes and stuff, right?
So these guys are aren't these guys like the protectors of like God Emperor, right? Or am I tripping?
These guys were literally, each and every one was handcrafted by the Emperor himself, and they literally guard Terra.
So why aren't they a Space Marine faction?
They're not, because they're not Space Marines. They're like they're in their own class.
Well, that's what so are they? So do they rank like what's like the ranking? Like, okay, it's gonna sound really stupid. Yeah, I'm not gonna remember all the names, so I'm gonna like classify them as what I kind of descriptive stuff.
Yeah.
Just so we knows. Yeah. So in the chain of command, is a Space Marine able to give orders to like the little soldier guys in the case of a battle?
Yeah,
and then so let's say that they're attacking Terra. Do these whatever you just called these guys, are they able to give orders to the Space Marines?
Yeah, if any enemy force made it far enough to hit Terra, these guys would be there. I don't know if they outrank the Primarchs. Like, say, like Guilliman is kind of the leader of the Imperium right now. I think they technically outrank him. Like if he came to Terra, because they are like the voice of the Emperor, right? Here.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, right? Is that like they're, you know, and
that's actually a really good question.
So are they the only? Well, yeah, because I don't know.
So according to Reddit, Primarchs have a higher authority than Custodes.
Well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Well, because this community is stupid.
The Primarchs are his sons.
Okay, yeah, but these motherfuckers are his caretakers.
I guess it depends. It depends on the Primarch and it depends on the Custodes, right? Like. If a war happened to come to Terra, I'm sure they would probably just work together in some way. But also, like, say you had a Primarch like Guilliman, if he came to Terra and he was like, "I'm gonna go see my dad," without like asking or anything first, they would try to kill him on the spot. You know, like.
Exactly. That's my point. Also, their name sounds cool. Yeah, that's like a fucking spell that you cast. I said you got Primarch.
Adeptus Custodes. You know? What about? Yeah.
I mean, because when I hear that word, I don't know what they look like. I'll look it up later. Kyle, you have Jamie. If you want to just look it up, send me.
Look it up, Jamie. They're basically awesome. So like if Space Marines are these 8-foot tall dudes in like the generic power armor, Custodes are these dudes in 10-foot gleaming golden power armor with adorned in like the symbols of eagles and like red fabric.
How is that not higher on the chain command? Yeah,
it kind of depends on the place and like where they're at, you know. Like if the Custodes is out in Primarch territory, like it's different than if they're on Terra, I would assume.
Well, no, that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean, right? Yeah, I'm looking at that if they come to Terra, how does the chain?
It would probably be to the Custodes because it's like that's like their turf.
Also, I have a question.
Yeah,
I need to back this up. This just came to me. Mm-hmm. Is the God Emperor like alive or like alive?
He is alive on life support. He is like barely. He is literally like kind of a skeleton with a working brain being kept alive by like hundreds of machines. So his throne, the Golden Throne, in order to keep operating, they have to feed it 1,000 souls a day to keep him alive.
So they just kill people?
Yeah.
They just like, ugh.
I mean, they got plenty of bodies to throw around.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. So if they come to Terra, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but are they outside the ruling though of like the Imperium? Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Like if the Imperium, that's the army.
That's like the overarching stuff, right? Title for all of humanity. Yeah.
Okay. So whoever the guy runs the Imperium, if he goes to these custodian guys, that's what I'm going to call them now.
Yeah.
The janitors. And he goes, "Hey, fuck faces! For some reason, we're losing this really big thing out here. Or like they're approaching Terra. Like, go fight them." Like, are they outside of his control?
The way the Custodes work is that at any one time, there are 10,000 Custodes on Terra. And these are, the ones who are completely fucking dedicated to their craft. Like, Custodes are described as standing still for centuries and still being able to have the precision to cut a fly in half, right? Like, these are the guys. But Custodes, whenever they do trade off and they kind of, like, get retired, those are the ones that will go off into the far reaches of space and fucking dominate the battlefield. Or there are, I forget what they're called, but there's specific Custodes that are kind of like, they're kind of like the Jedi recruiters, if you know what I mean, where, like, they will go to important people in the galaxy and they'll just protect them because they think that they're going to be someone important in the future, right? Like, you'll be, like, a regular guardsman sitting like on the sidelines waiting for your 15-hour mark, and a fucking 10-foot tall perfect Adonis in golden power armor with a spear will just appear beside you one day, and it will not say a single word. It'll just make sure that nothing harms you, because one day they think that Guardsmen might become a general or something, right? You just have protection by, like,
be fucking horrifying.
Yeah. I don't know how.
Your buddy's coming to work one day. Your buddy's coming to work one day, and you sit there with this 10-foot golden motherfucker. You're like, "Hey, man, yeah."
What's
your buddy
that?
Gets a little too close, just a spear through the chest.
Is that the bad guy from BioShock Infinite? Like,
is that God? Why is he here? And he just sits there silently. Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to take a shit. And you just got this golden guy outside the bathroom stall. Yeah, he's sitting in the stall with you.
Yeah. He makes sure he, like, looks down on the toilet to make sure there's no demon in there. Like, yeah. They're scary.
He's handing you toilet paper.
The only thing about the Custodes...
He's got his own roll of toilet paper.
Yeah. The only thing about the Custodes is that they're not really... I don't know if they're not at all, but I know they're not strong psychers. Like, they have no kind of mental or magical ability, if that makes sense. Like, they're just fucking solid.
They're just pure... utter warriors.
Yeah, and they're the best at what they do.
Like, I think the way that you describe them is, I like envision them as like machines of death, like God's fucking
basically.
Hand. You know
like,
what I mean?
if regular Astartes, the Space Marines, are described as angels of death, the Custodes are like biblically accurate angels of death.
Yeah, because this is like, I know we're going back to this whole like chain of command thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I look at it that you've got this man who controls his empire, the Imperium. It's fucking dope and all. Yeah, I just find it a hard time that he goes up to these people that is literally like God's hand in my mind. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the sword that smites the enemies and goes, "I'm in charge." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And are they like cognizant? Are they like up there, or are they just like fucking machines? You know what I mean? Not like actual machines, but you know what I mean? Like,
hold on, one more time.
They have one task. Okay. Are they like real people in their brains, or are they just like machines? You know what I mean? Yeah.
The Space Marines?
Like, we have one task to No, the janitor guys.
Custodes. Yeah, they're like the Marines, where they're augmented, like they're genetically modified and everything like that, but they are still flesh, you know.
No. I mean, like on like a mental way. Yeah, you know what I mean.
They're incorruptible, so like chaos cannot corrupt them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're like the purest form. Yeah.
Just about, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Space Marines already are pretty pure. Like, it's really hard to corrupt a Space Marine. And then, you know, if a Custodes is 100 times stronger than a Space Marine, then yeah.
So how do they feel about human life? Like, do they think it's like all disposable, or?
So okay.
I mean, obviously not. If they're gonna
hold on, I found your answer. Is that apparently Rogel Dorn, who was one of the other Primarchs, tried to give Custodes orders, and they told him they only answer to the Emperor himself. So unless it was like under specific circumstances, or the leader of the Custodes was talking to the Primarchs or something, the Custodes would probably not be ordered around by any of the Primarchs.
Okay. See, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys understand what we said at the top of the thing, where we're not experts, but, you know, it's a learning process for all of us.
Yeah. Well, I want to get the fine points down.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more interested in like the finer points of stuff.
By the way,
right? Yeah.
We're only halfway through humanity, and there's still 2 other enemy type factions to go, or groupings to go.
So do the Custody guys, do they look at humanity the same way the Salamanders do, or are they just like that Space Marine mindset of like?
I don't know. I don't think they really care, because most of them just spend all their time on Terra, where there is basically nothing going on.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, let's say like something happens, they're like, they're here.
I don't think they would think twice about. They might. So Warhammer does this thing where everything is true, but nothing is canon. Basically, where like a lot of stuff is vaguely answered. Like, there's this story about when the Emperor killed Horus that is very specifically a story, because we don't know for sure that the thing that sent the Emperor over the edge, like, because originally he didn't want to kill Horus, right? Horus is his son. It's like part of his great workings. He didn't actually want to kill Horus, even though Horus was trying to destroy his empire, until the Emperor and Horus were facing off, literally face to face. And the only reason that the Emperor hadn't killed Horus yet is because he was holding back, until a single dude, a single regular ass soldier, like one of the guys we talked about who had a 15-hour lifespan, stepped in between the Emperor and Horus and was like, "You're not gonna touch my Emperor." And Horus hit him so hard that the flesh left his bones.
I know it's not. I had this image in my mind of this little man, and I don't know how, like, just
these are two 12-foot tall demigods.
Yeah, and he's walking up, and he has his gun up. He's like shaking. He's like, "You will not touch my Emperor," and just gets bitch slapped.
Fucking bam, blasted. Right?
But it's like those Looney Tune things where they run away so fast, right? Yeah, just like the skin is there, except he just gets hit. And it just bones. It just falls to the ground. Yeah.
Basically. Probably exactly how it happened. But basically that one soldier getting like fucking murked by Horus right in front of the Emperor is what sent the Emperor over the edge to be able to kill Horus.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So, yeah, no, that makes sense.
So, if
that's crazy.
If the Custodes, I don't know too much about them, like, kind of culturally, I can't fucking speak. Culturally in that way,
yeah.
But if they were to follow the Emperor, I would assume that they probably, I don't think they would go out of their way to save people like the Salamanders do, but I think they would give some amount of care, like kind of a midline, kind of like how the more nurtured Space Marines are, like how the Ultramarines are. Like, they won't go out of their way to murk people or to not murk them. They'll just they're kind of neutral on it.
Yeah.
This could be very wrong, and Warhammer fans, you're allowed to correct us on all of this in the comments. It would be much appreciated.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would be much appreciated, kid. Just don't correct me on my opinions on who would win.
Now, speaking of dudes who do kill regular people on a regular basis, we have the Grey Knights, which are kind of Space Marines, kind of not really.
Oh, these are like the motherfuckers that when you see one, you're already dead.
You're basically dead if you see them.
You and your whole
Yeah, Grey Knights are also they're kind of Space Marines, kind of not. They're kind of Space Marines plus, where Custodes are like Space Marines plus, where they're not like a chapter or anything. They were made by the Emperor as well, not nearly as complex as a Custodes. Say, like, if it takes 100 Space Marines to kill a Custodes, it would probably take 5 to 10 Grey Knights to kill a Custodes. But Grey Knights, their whole thing is where Custodes are super powerful, but not very, like, psychically, magically strong.
Yeah.
The Grey Knights are super magically strong because their main thing is killing demons. Like, they go out of their way to hunt and kill all of demonkind.
So this is like your blade kind of shit. The blade isn't the right term, but that's
no. But yeah, they're
like, no, yeah, that's the right term.
They're not like the closest term. You get to like godly crusaders in the Space Marines.
And I'm assuming they're like all white and gray. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like the silver armor. They got like very knightly looking helmets.
But why do they kill people that see them though?
So basically, their whole thing is to kill demons, right? And the way demons grow power is by corrupting regular people and turning those into demons. So basically, if a demon invasion of a planet is bad enough that Grey Knights show up, there's a chance, even if you didn't turn into a demon, even if you're not gonna turn into a demon, there is a chance that you've been corrupted, and at some point, if it's not tomorrow, if it's not next week, if it's not 5 years from now, if it's not 20 years from now, there's a chance that you will turn into a demon. So they just murk you.
So
they remove all chance whatsoever.
Crazy thought. Grey Knights show up. Demon invasion. Yeah. Uh-oh. There's a janitor, golden guy, sitting behind this little guardsman at the front gate. What's happening next? Yeah. They let him die. Does he not die? You know what I mean?
What, the Custodes?
But there's like a big...
They're not killing Custodes.
No, but like the Custode. No, not the Custode, but like you said, like to protect... No, hold on. But they said like they protect like the guy that they think is going to be important. Yeah.
Oh, you know like I mean? If he's protecting someone who's important? I would assume.
Yeah, but there's like a huge invasion. Like what happens next, right? Like
I would assume at the very beginning, you would see the Custodes like kind of step forward, and he hasn't said a single word to any of these guardsmen. They're like super like concerned that he's around, but they've never heard him say a word, so they just sort of get used to him being around. And he steps forward, and the first thing they ever hear him say is "not this one," and then you see the Grey Knights mow down every single other soldier. That's how I assumed it would work out, anyways.
But that's exactly what. The last thing these people hear is
not this guy.
This poor guardsman has to watch his employees, his coworkers, just get fucking mowed down. Yeah? God.
Yeah. Guardsmen get it the worst, man. They really do. But not even guardsmen, just like regular-ass civilians and stuff, too. If you see a Grey Knight, that Grey Knight is going to kill you.
No, exactly, but I think...
That's why Grey Knights are also like a super rare thing. Like, we know about them, obviously, because it's a game and world and everything like that, but like regular-ass people in the world don't know what a Grey Knight is. Even like people who are like higher up in the chains of command or like the governor of a planet or something don't know what Grey Knights are. Because
I enjoy doing the whole Custodia thing or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
In just these different scenarios.
These thought experiments.
But I think my so far favorite. Yeah,
I think the Warhammer subreddit would love you.
Why?
Because it's just all of these like
I don't think they are
all these like weird theoretical thought experiments that would like never. I don't think they would ever actually come up. But it's interesting to think about. Yeah.
But I think my favorite so far is not this one. Proceeds to mow down 50 people around this one guy.
They murder everyone else.
Sit there and just fucking watch. Yeah.
But like Custodes, Grey Knights, because their whole thing is fighting demons and specifically combating demons, they're basically non-corruptible. Like there's a Grey Knight, I don't know his name, but he has like this big demon sword, basically, that if any other person was holding it, it would corrupt them and turn them into a demon. And he is specifically holding onto the sword that's constantly telling him to corrupt himself and just not. And he's holding onto the sword so that it can't corrupt anyone else. Like that is how strong they are with it. And I think that guy is lost in the warp somewhere, just murdering endless amounts of demons. Like they're basically Doom Guy, right? Where they just
I was gonna say, do you think he's come face to face with Doom Guy?
Like that one dude is out there in the warp recreating the Doom like cover art, you know. For sure.
It's kind of badass. I think so far that's one of my favorite factions.
They're definitely they're very cool. And they have like all these magic powers that are like teleporting around and shit. Where they'll just like, even though they're these massive, like, Space Marines are already described as being too fast for something that big. Like, something that big should not move that fast. So,
Yeah.
Grey Knights are, on average, probably a little bit bigger than Space Marines because they use Terminator armor, which is like basically a bigger, bulkier set of armor. And they teleport all across the battlefield. So you'll see one, and then it'll just move 100 feet instantaneously.
See, I think what I like about them is that, like, it makes sense. Them, like, killing innocent people. Not that, like, that sounds fucked up. But, like, I get, like, if you're, like, born and raised to be this demon hunter, and you see that, oh, if there's a 0.001% chance, because even if there's that 0.1% chance of someone turning into a demon, if that one person turns into a demon, there's a chance that it could domino effect into turning the whole planet demon, right? So that's what I'm wondering. Like,
that's their whole thought process.
Like, if one person gets infected, it can, like, reach out to other people.
Yeah. Basically.
So that but I get that, like, that thought process makes sense of, like, let's just
especially in 40K where they have, like, the huge human overpopulation problem. Like, you're not going to miss 20 million people, you know, when you have so many trillions upon trillions.
Yeah. So would they just kill the whole planet if they had to?
I don't know if Grey Knights do that often. The Inquisitors do. Inquisitors are also, they're not an army in their own. They're kind of like a separate kind of a thing that gets attached to other Imperium armies. But Inquisitors are these guys who kind of like Grey Knights, but they're more bureaucratic, where, like, their whole thing is to weed out demon infections and stuff like that. And Inquisitors are some of the single most powerful people in the Imperium, authority-wise. Of course, when it comes to, like, stuff like Custodes or the Primarchs, technically, like, I've seen this talked about where, like, Inquisitors technically have the authority to tell Primarchs what to do, but if they did, they would probably get beat like that one dude in front of Horus, you know? Because Inquisitors, unlike Grey Knights that are, like, souped up Space Marines, Inquisitors are just dudes. They're just regular people. But, like, it's their job to weed out demons, right?
So how do they become an Inquisitor? Like, how do you become an Inquisitor?
You just be so good of a person that
and
you
the
get
janitor fucks and all the Space Marines, right? Like, they're all, like,
just
born and bred
regular people,
right?
Yeah. The Grey Knights and the Custodes are specifically born and bred to be what they are. Inquisitors, it's more like a rank that you get promoted to. But in the Inquisitors have this order they can give called Exterminatus, where basically it does exactly what it sounds like, where basically if they think a planet is too far gone, they can declare Exterminatus and just wipe that planet from the galactic map. Of course, in some cases...
the whole fucking planet?
The whole planet.
Like, they Death Star that son of a bitch?
Yeah, because it's not worth it to try and fight back for the whole planet if it's too far gone, you know?
They don't just, like...
Of course, sometimes...
They don't just, like, kill everybody, they gotta take the whole planet?
The whole planet, because it's not... You could not kill everybody, you know?
I fuck with it. Well, you could. From what I understand at Warhammer, you probably could.
Well, maybe, yeah. Like, you threw enough people at it. But that's like... Inquisitors get this joke about them where they're like, oh, I'm too tired today. Exterminatus. Like, you know, just bomb it. Oh, there's no more coffee left in the machine. Exterminatus. I'm not doing this.
I can't find this one fucking guy. Just kill him.
Cyberpunk 20. Cyberpunk 40,000 came out today. Exterminatus. I don't got time for this.
Okay. So is that all the other kind of factions, or
no, we're not done with Imperium yet. We have 3 kind of more things to go. We can try and run through these fast. They're all a bit smaller. Next, we have the Sisters of Battle, which is battle nuns. They're like kind of a step in between regular soldiers and Space Marines, because they're Sisters of Battle are just regular people. They don't have any augmentations or anything. They're just they have power armor, which puts them a little bit above regular people, and they have like this really intense faith in the Emperor that powers them magically.
Okay.
And they're very much aesthetic, like they're very much rule of cool. Like they have all of these very churchy, nunny type of things going on. Like they have tanks that their tanks work by being their tank is basically an organ, a pipe organ on the back of a tank that shoots missiles as it plays.
You know, I think that's what I'm starting to enjoy with the Warhammer stuff. Yeah,
that's part of the enjoyment of it. It's so far out there.
but it's aesthetically cool. But I could sit there and I could be like, yeah, no, I get it. That's dope as fuck.
Because imagine going into battle and you hear like the Phantom of the Opera thing, like the bum bum, bum bum, but there's also like fucking Predator missiles firing up out of it with every single shot raining down on the battlefield.
That is dope. That's like Mad Max shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what I want.
That's what they are. They're battle nuns. That's kind of what they do, and they're good at it, and they're cool. They're a bitch to paint, like Militarum. But,
I imagine.
Yeah. Let's move past them. I want to get down to the Imperium because we're like a third of the way through the universe. Next are the Imperial Knights, which I fucking love. The Knights. So like my dude over here, this is a Canis Rex. There's like a bunch of different classes of them. The ones that use like melee weapons or like big weapons or whatever. This is a knight, big fucking robot, right? They're not the biggest robots. There are titans above them, which are fucking massive. So this knight is 400 points. The biggest titan that Games Workshop makes, I think, is 3,800 points of soldier.
Okay.
So they get fucking big. But the knights, basically, before the Emperor and everything, when humanity was out kind of amongst the galaxy, they made knights to protect their settlements from aliens or chaos or what have you. Knights they're very much like they embody the name knight, where they work on like these houses that like pass down the mech throughout the ages and stuff. And they're kind of like Pacific Rimmed, where the pilot gets connected to the neural interface of the knight, and they like inherit all the memories of the previous pilots and stuff, and that kind of keeps them in check. So like if you have a new generation that's like, fuck this, I'm gonna fuck bitches in my knight, they get hooked up to all those like previous lives of the pilots, and they have this sense of duty kind of instilled in them throughout that like generational memory, you know? But knights, I really like knights because, say, if you were to see a knight, you're probably more likely to see a knight as a regular person than a space marine. Because knights, their kind of whole thing is just protecting people. Like, they're just defenders, essentially. But they are their own best hype men. And what I mean by that is, like, if you are just a regular dude, you're living on a farm in the middle of nowhere, you're, like, getting attacked by, like, these, I don't know, raiders or aliens or something like that, and you're being, like, fucked over all the time, and then, boom, from the sky, you hear in the voice of BT, Titanfall incoming, a massive machine falls from the sky, pulls out a 20-foot chainsaw in one arm and a minigun on the other, and you hear it start blasting music and speaking throughout this massive horn, saying, "I am Knight Inquisitor, or Knight Quistorius of the House, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba, champion of battle," and it'll go on for 20 minutes talking about all of its different battles and accomplishments and achievements and titles and how much you should not have fucked with it. As it proceeds to rain down 7 different types of ammunition on you.
I can imagine being the farmer. I'm sitting there listening to this asshole go, "I did this, and I did that, and you should not fuck with me because I did it just like 20 minutes."
It's kind of like the Transformers effect of standing there and seeing Optimus Prime go, "I am Optimus Prime. I am the last of my kind, and I will kill you." Like, he gives this big long speech before he starts fighting.
Yeah.
But like they'll do that, and then they'll keep, like, their speech is so long that they keep going while they're shooting down on the enemy. Which is, I just love it.
That is fucking amazing.
Knights are some of my favorite, and I kind of want to make a knight army to go, because like the way I'm building my army is based around like those smaller type dudes. You know, like I have my small little settlement of like regular ass dudes surrounded by salamanders, and then they have knights with them too. I have that one knight, and I'm kind of thinking about getting like 1 or 2 more because they're fun to paint. Because it might sound weird, but bigger models are easier to paint when it comes to 40k because you kind of have less going on. It's also like you can make more mistakes type thing, where if a knight is, you know, 10 inches tall, if you make a tiny little mistake while you're painting, you're not going to notice. Versus if you have a tiny little, like, Astra Militarum dude and you fuck up his face is fucked up. Like, it's really noticeable. You know, versus knights, if you miss a little bit of metal or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, they're awesome. They're fucking bombastic, and they're cool.
Oh, yeah.
After knights, we have the Adeptus Mechanicus, which are the cultist mechanics, basically.
These are like the machine gods. These like pray to like the machine god.
These guys pray to the machine god, which, if you don't know, sounds kind of heretical, and that's because it is. They technically don't pray to the emperor like the rest of the Imperium does. They pray to the, I think it's the Omnissiah, the machine god, basically, that makes all of their their machines work. Like when their Toyota Corolla doesn't start in the morning, they go, please Omnissiah, make this work, and then it turns on, and they're like, there we go, machine spirit, I told you. But the thing with the Adeptus Mechanicus, these are the guys that made the Titans, these are the guys that made the Knights, these are the guys that made Space Marine armor. They make all your guns and stuff like that. So like when the Emperor first started going around and taking over everything, the Adeptus Mechanicus, which are on Mars, by the way, so if like Terra is Earth, they're just on Mars, they're right there. And the Emperor was like, I don't want to fight you guys. You guys are allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. And then, like, even now, in the 41st millennium, the Imperium can't really tell them anything because they make all your guns, they make all your armor, they make all your everything. What are you going to do? Tell them stop doing all of that? So they kind of are allowed to do what they want. They are, but they kind of have a bit more leeway. They kind of, like, just sit in their own little alcove doing whatever the fuck they want.
So are they heavily guarded, though? I'd imagine.
I mean, they're right next to Terra, so yeah, it would be fucking hard to get there.
No, but I mean, like, let's say that, like I said, they get there. Like, do they have a lot more defense?
I mean, they're tough. Them? Like,
right? Yeah.
Let's put it this way: when the Emperor was originally taking over or kind of conquering all of humanity in the Unification Wars, he didn't bother to fight them. He just said, "I'll let you do what you do if you just kind of pledge allegiance to me," without trying to fight them.
Is that because they're powerful? Is that because they made all of this shit?
A little column A, a little column B, because like they make all the shit, so they have plenty of shit that they just make that they can obviously defend themselves with. You know, they're just not so much on like the conquering side of things. But when you see Adeptus Mechanicus, you see like these dudes covered in tech parts, and they're always like surrounded by these massive mech suits and stuff.
Oh, so they have protection with them.
Yeah,
like,
they're not like
their own
defenseless.
Thing. Basically, they just Okay,
but so they kind of stay out of everyone's way. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. They're more. They're like the.
Yeah, all they want to do is sit in the corner and like pray to their toaster. Like they don't really have anything that conflicts with like the rest of the Imperium. You know.
Yeah. Do like hyper religious people not like them though because they don't pray?
That's like the thing. Like they're technically heretical. Like if anyone else in the entire Imperium said "fuck the God Emperor," I don't want to pray to him, they would be murdered on the fucking spot right then and there without a second chance. The Adeptus Mechanicus can say "Praise be the Omnissiah" and everything else, and they kind of just get away with it because again, they make all your guns, they make all your shit. So,
but let's say if somebody were adept to attack these guys, would other people like? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like if they were getting attacked by an outside force, they would probably. I'm sure they would get help from like Space Marines and stuff.
Okay,
because you still want to protect the guys that make all your shit. They're not just gonna like leave them out for dead.
Well, that's what I was like, wondering, right? Like
one of the advantages of them being on Mars, like that's also a big thing. It's like if something is close enough to get to Sol, to get close enough to Mars and Earth, the entirety of the Imperium is there. You know. Because that's literally like their holy site. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
This is also like an Imperium that spans most of the galaxy, the Milky Way. So if they were close enough, if an enemy force was close enough to Earth to be on Mars, you would have to have every single Space Marine, Knight, Imperial Guard, whatever that you could right there next to it.
So my another question is that are the Space Marines forced to take extra care if they were to defend them? Because I'm assuming they couldn't treat them like they treat most humans, because they make your shit.
Well,
right? You know what I mean?
They would probably be a little bit more careful to keep them alive if it came down to that. You're really good at asking the questions that like nobody ever thinks of because it never really comes up. It's not a bad thing.
I don't know. I like the hypothetical of like what if they get that clip. Right?
And that's a lot of this is like I can't really answer it correctly. They're just like a machine cult that lives on Mars.
But are they originally humans?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're like humans, though they're like cyber. They're
a little bit like the Iron Hands, where they're a lot of them are like cybernetically enhanced and stuff, very cyberpunked. Because they obviously they fucking love machines and shit.
Yeah.
And these are the guys like when they die, they turn their brain and their skull into like a floating drone and shit like that.
So they're like kind of live on eternally.
A little bit, yeah. There's a lot of things in Warhammer that live on eternally.
Okay, so are they like a finite species though?
Yeah, they're humans. I don't know if they recruit.
Well, no. But I mean, like, do they recruit or do they like create more of themselves? Right? Yeah. That's what I mean by like finite, right? Yeah. Like, are they like the only ones, and that's only ever gonna be them, and as each one dies, like that's it? Or do they like recruit, or do they like birth? Like, whole, like, normal
so they either clone or they just steal people.
Dude, fuck yeah. That's my new favorite group. Cloning or stealing people? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they hate the flesh. They're like the Iron Hands. They hate the flesh, so they despise fucking naturally. So they'll just go up to like a car meet and they'll be like, "This one, take him, bring him in, grab that Toyota Corolla too."
This one modded his Subaru. This one modded his Subaru like a motherfucker. We want this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know, because it feels like they would be like a super important like group of people. Right?
Oh, they are.
Yeah. Because you don't have Space Marines if you don't have your shit. Right.
Basically, yeah.
So, but I thought I thought at the beginning you said they didn't really know how to make it. Yeah.
So do
these guys?
It's a bit touchy.
They do and they don't.
So there's multiple factors that play into this. The Adeptus Mechanicus are so kind of cult-driven that they have impeded their own advancement. Like, they technically have the skills and resources to make new stuff, but they almost consider it a crime to, like, desecrate over, like, the old machines they have, right? Secondly is that, like, what they have, they are so protective of that, like, even if a Space Marine dies, they will take his armor and give it to another Space Marine. Because that armor is, like, that valuable to them. Same thing for, like, bolters and shit like that. And a lot of it gets, like, handed down. Say, like, Space Marines... Let me find this guy. This guy I have here is from my Horus Heresy box. This is a Mark III, I think a Mark IV Space Marine, which basically means he was alive during the Horus Heresy. And those Space Marines that were alive during the Horus Heresy, a number of them are still alive 10,000 years later in the 41st millennium. So they're kind of, their technology kind of grinds to a halt. Like, they can make new ones, like especially guns and stuff, like bolters, but stuff when it comes to like armor or knights or titans is a lot harder to remake.
So at what point did they then become a cult in the history? Yeah, right? Like, were they always kind of like the mechanical fucks that built everything?
I think they were a cult before even like the Emperor's Unification Wars. I don't know how far back their history goes, but I know they were definitely a cult like during that time.
There was Human Moves to Mars, and that Tesla that Elon Musk landed in space and it crashed.
We'll have to do separate episodes for all these ones you're interested in, so we can like go over each faction in more detail.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what I'm curious about is how, like, it all works. Like, what, like when do the Space Marines care more, and when do they care less about?
It's very much a case by case basis, right? You know, like.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think that's the fun part. And okay, so like, do these machine fuckers, do they create like the ships too? Yeah, like, do they create everything? Yeah.
No,
or do they just like the armor and the guns? And do they do like repairs? Like, if a Space Marine comes and his armor is like fucked, yeah, will they like fix the armor?
I know if they make it, or they make repairs and stuff. Certainly.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of their stuff is like, they kind of put these restrictions on themselves, like especially how like the more higher tier stuff works, like say like Space Marine armor or Knights. Only the people that are really, really, really high rank in the Mechanicus in the first place know how that works. Like they restrict that knowledge.
So do you think if that knowledge wasn't restricted, if they like gave up on the cultists, do you think the Marines, like the Imperium, would just body? Yeah.
They would definitely have a lot more of it, yeah, probably. They would probably be allowed to invent new and stronger stuff.
And do you think then it would be, because do you think that
to my understanding that's what Primaris, so like let me bring up my Marines again. This is a Primaris Marine, which is like the newer age of Space Marines, the models especially, versus like the Mark IV Marine, who are a lot more smaller and a bit more like squat looking. The Primaris basically came around from close to 10,000 years of tiny little bits and pieces, making them better and better as the years went on. So it's a very, very slow process because they are so guarding of it. And if they weren't so guarding of it, they would probably be in a better place. But they're, almost too far gone at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so is that the episode then?
The episode. We're just done with humanity.
Oh, we're gonna keep going.
Are you all Warhammered out? Because we still have.
How long have we been talking about this?
It's been about an hour and a half now.
Oh, I thought we were gonna split this up into multiple episodes.
We totally can. Unless you want to go on and have a full fucking mega episode and get all of this beginning. My main goal was, I guess I didn't expect to get so in depth with it, but it's been really fun with like the questions and stuff. Because like I said, my main goal was like, say if we were like trying to get you like an army, was to like run through all of the basic armies and see which one you like the most.
Well, I think we should split this up into like a bit of a series.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what
all
I mean?
right. We'll see how it goes. So this is just the Imperium. That means next time we do this, we will do Chaos and we will do Xenos, because there is far less of those all combined than there is of just like the Imperium is like a whole 50% of the armies on its own, just because there's like it's so big.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were doing this like splitting it up at episodes.
No. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Imperium.
Sorry, guys.
So that's fine.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what do you think? So say like if you had to pick now, which of those human factions do you think you enjoyed the most?
I think on a coolness factor for me, this is my hot take. I think the salamanders are at the bottom. Yeah, I want to say maybe like the it's between the tech fuckers and like the golden janitor guys.
The Adeptus Mechanicus?
Yeah. And like the janitor guys.
Custodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
And maybe the Grey Knights. Between those three.
And I called myself the Emperor and I called you my Custodes. You were like, I don't want to be a fucking janitor. But yeah.
I think between the Grey Knights, the Custodian guys, and the mechanic dudes.
That's nice.
Or I can't really pick one.
We didn't even talk about.
I think I like.
So there's a second part of the Custodes that I totally forgot. They have this thing called Sisters of Silence, which is basically they have these armored. I don't think they're specialized in any way. I think they're like Sisters of Battle, where it's just they just have power armor. But basically, the Sisters of Silence are this thing called blanks, which is basically every mind has a presence in the warp, right? Like it's your brain, your soul is connected to the warp in some way. The Sisters of Silence have almost no presence in the warp. So much so that stuff in the warp like can't see them.
So when I So yeah, so when I was asking that original question, right? Yeah, is that if there was anything in the like the Custodes' minds, and I was asking if they were machines, I meant more like that, right? Yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah.
if they're, you know what I mean? That if they're like a blank fucking thing that has like a one driven goal, and that it's to do the God Emperor's will, and
that's just
like nothing.
That's
no
just
opinions,
their discipline,
no
but it's not
thoughts.
like there's not like something artificial forcing that.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's what I was asking.
Say like that's like the makeup for like, say how I said Custodes aren't really magically inclined; they're just fucking super strong, which means they would have a hard time fighting stuff like demons, stuff that can't, that is magically strong. The answer to that is the Sisters of Silence, which demons literally cannot see. I mean, first of all, they're silent women, which fucking awesome, but also, they literally cannot be seen by demons, pretty much. So, like, they kind of have, like, ultimate stealth against demons and that kind of thing, or psychers in general. So if you have Custodes and they're being, like, surrounded by demons, those demons are being surrounded by Sisters of Silence, and they don't even know it. So they'll get blindsided, and then the Custodes just fucking go to work. Custodes is also, by the way, the army that Henry Cavill collects.
That's fucking awesome.
So they get cool
points. But I would say
there.
between the Grey Knights, I would say between the Custodian guys, the Grey Knights, and the mechanic dudes, those are my top 3 favorites.
I would tell you.
Can't really pick one. I think I like. Pardon?
Yeah, I will tell you. Obviously, it's not happening. But if you were actually collecting one, I would warn you right away. Grey Knights and Mechanicus, bitches to paint because they have so many little small details. Versus the Custodes are just gold.
I can't paint for shit.
Neither can I, but like
I can't paint for shit. So yeah, but I'd much rather have fun watching one of my other friends paint them.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
That works. Yeah,
I'll put them together.
But yeah, Custodes are there. Grey Knights are cool. They're like the fucking Doom guy. You have that one dude just off in the warp, kind of like fighting infinite number of demons.
I think that right there specifically brought up the Grey Knights. Yeah, because I just you know the music, the song I sent you today. Yeah. There's something that rings in my head. There's something that I can hear this Grey Knight with this demon
just
sword
swimming through sloughs of demon with a sword in one hand and singing through the other.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
But yeah, that was a really fun episode. I actually had a lot of fun with this.
It's the Imperium. We will definitely be back with 40k. We will be going into Xenos and demons and stuff like that. If we got anything wrong, I really like Warhammer, but I'm not an expert. I haven't delved too deep into it. I only know the kind of the basics, and I know most of the stuff I know is about the stuff I collect, like the Imperial Knights shouting their own hype music and hyping themselves up, and like the Salamanders and stuff. But next time we will do Chaos and we will do Xenos, aliens and stuff. We will do Rock and Stone. We will get to that. And I think that's going to be it.
I'm excited. I know if... Yeah. All
yeah,
right.
there's a lot of stuff in there, like bugs and the orcs and Rock and Stone. Like I said, it'll be really, really fun. When we get into the Xenos and Chaos, that's when it stops being like depressing human stuff and starts being wacky alien bullshit. Like there's a race of aliens out there that fucked so hard they made a new god.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you next time. Go fuck yourselves.
Go fuck yourselves.